Did you know a platypus is the only mammal who lays eggs?
Keep on going.
I thought mammal meant that they don't lay eggs. And why doesn't Mom lay an egg to have us?
In the city, it feels like we're not really connected.
I always felt like there wasn't enough time for the things that really counted. We packed up and headed 150 kilometers into the Yukon wilderness.
No running water, no electricity.
We had a lot of beans. Inside is our storage place, but outside is actually our home.
To get the freedom of time again, we had to free ourselves from the structure of time and see what would happen.
I started working in 1971 in a baby portrait photo lab as a college dropout. It was one of those jobs you just take when you need something to do, when you've got no experience, no real education, and you're back home living with your parents and really miserable. And I answered an ad in the paper, and I was hired to be a photo lab technician in a baby portrait photo lab. And believe it or not, I absolutely fell in love with the medium. A little back. Yeah, that's what I meant. Thank you. That's good. Don't ask me why. Well, the latest project I'm doing is a portrait project. The title of it is Through a Glass Dimly. Our experience as humans is not always clear. So with that in mind, everything that I do in making the photographs is a way of showing in a somewhat distorted or unclear or not complete view.
$160,000 people evacuated from here. They had to leave for good, and there was like no choice.
Тільки йшли так, будто би як партизани. Підкопувалися під проволоку і тоді йшли додому.
Це всі помирали, да, що?
Вже мало людей, мало.
А хоч якийсь дід є тут?
Бо там такі два, що не вход.
Вот бабушкин город. Вот это все мое. Все мое. Прощай, родом, завтра встретимся.
Полнодышный реактор Чернобыльской атомной электростанции.
Это те люди, которые нелегально проникают в зону Чернобыльской АЭС. Берется самостоятельная опасность для жизни и для здоровья.
Пробу, она, конечно, приходит вся активная.
You always kind of wonder about the last specimen of a dying species and how lonely that must be.
Тихо, теперь хрестись та й тікай.
Надо было в то время убрать людей отсюда.
Родителей я ее не знаю. Все. А голоду боюсь. Все.
Чорнобиль там храп має, те, що ми живемо тут.
Нікуди не поїду, хай мене під пістолет.
Het was een hele seksuele periode toen. Ik was actief, ja. En nu zou ik nog actief willen zijn, maar ze bellen niet meer aan. Dus dat is heel spijtig.
L'amour vrai, mamma mia. Dans ce milieu-là, mamma mia. C'est difficile, cette question. À notre âge, c'est déjà plus si facile hein, de rechercher l'amour.
Hallo, Peppietje.
En ik keek in die zijn ogen en ik was volledig weg van de kaart. En het was een Chinees. Zo waar ik eigenlijk niks moet van hebben, is van Chinezen.
Zeg, ik heb begrepen, dat maakt niet uit hoe je gekleed gaat. Of je blijft innerlijk blijf je toch dezelfde.
¿Tú crees que una pelea de perros sea lugar para un niño?
Peor es una vida de perro, Carmela.
Buenas.
Pero eso es algo que no decide solo usted, Carmela.
El día que yo no decida lo que pasa en mi clase.
Profe, todavía no nos ha dicho si es verdad que se jubila.
Hasta ese día soy maestra.
Oye, lo que pasa aquí...
Ciao.
Questa sera c'è la cena con Massimo.
Quanto gli piace a tuo fratello? Ci porta sempre nello stesso posto, ma da 10 anni. Vogliamo parlare della signora? Chissà come sarà vestita.
Scusatemi, avete già iniziato?
Io me ne vado.
Dai, aspetta, vengo con te.
Oh, ma che fai?
Com'è andata ieri sera?
Perché?
Vuoi dirmi qualcosa?
Mica la prima volta che mio padre mi risolve qualche impiccio.
Ma tu come mi vedi? Pensi che sia un pezzo di merda? Era questa la cosa importante che mi dovevi dire.
Tua figlia ha trascinato mio figlio in questa situazione tutta la vita che è così.
Eravate voi?
No, non eravamo noi. Ma come fai a credere a tuo fratello e non a tuo figlio? Io lo conosco, mio figlio. Tu lo conosci?
This is Afghanistan. Before the Taliban, you can't believe it that this was Afghanistan.
عکس جز زندگی آدم ها است. طالبان متاسفانه که عکاسی حرام پنداشته میشد. مملکتی که بدون عکس باشه مملکت هویتش نداره.
This free situation for media is really new in Afghanistan.
We were the first group who got trained in photography after the Taliban time.
These 10 years was a revolution for photography. But I don't know what will happen now.
چیزی از که انکار شده نمیتونم یک چیز واقعیت است.
It was not just, okay, I won the Pulitzer Prize and then finished. No, I had to tell this story.
What I'm trying to do is focus deeper in the life of Afghan women. Sometimes I get to the point that I even question this decision. If I die, is it worth it?
Lara, she's the mother of the angel.
Okay.
Yara,
Yara.
my sister of the angel. 10 and 7. شيء غير شيء، يعني كل وحده شيء.
يعني هيدا الصبي شيء فوق الطبيعة. أنا من زمان كنت أقول له ما حدا يصدقني.
أنا بقول هيدا مش عطيلة، هيدا سيف الشياطين.
معوني شوي.
شو هذا الصوت؟
سميه ليبا، سميه هلأ، هيك بصير عنده كيان، بصير عنده وجود، ولما بصير عنده اسم يعني بصير حدا، ولما الحدا بصير صعب انه يفل.
A keystone species is any species in an ecosystem whose population and behavior affects every other species. That's certainly what we are as a species right now. In order for us to design an agriculture or a culture that is ecological, then we have to look to our local models, and that's the forest. That is our teacher.
Creating a multi-storied ecosystem with mushrooms and berries and fruits and nuts and grazing animals and vegetables all interwoven, this idea of permaculture, we can actually be healing forces.
What could it be like if humans can help make this place sing with life? That gets me really fired up because I can just taste the beginning of it.
We can really look at permaculture design as a whole way of seeing the world, looking at problems and seeing how they can turn into solutions.
Coming up with a pattern that brings the landscape to life while meeting human needs. That's what's unique about permaculture.
An ecosystem doesn't require lots of energy input from the outside from another ecosystem. It's finding a way to work with the sun and all the natural cycles to produce what it needs.
Entonces, hoy en día, ¿cuántas personas por semana compran un anillo de compromiso?
No sé, 2 o 3, digamos.
No, pero digo argentinos.
1 al mes, con suerte.
Creo que me lo va a proponer.
¿Como las películas yankees?
People really do that? Yeah. Like in real life? Women in Argentina don't like it.
Es horrible. ¿Que tus viejos van a poner una dote también?
Sí, una cabra y 2 campos. Muero por saber lo que tiene en mente. Fue tan misterioso.
Plane? You mean...
You know, the kind that carries banners and stuff.
¿Entienden? Bueno, entonces tienen que atender.
Mi nombre es Víctor, toco el cello.
Mi nombre es Ada Maribel Ríos Bogado y toco el violín.
Ahí va.
A group of kids in Paraguay actually made all of the instruments out of trash.
Look at this. That's a fork, people.
Let the gift of music shine through tonight on that stage.
हाँ ले जा रही है
I like this boy.
Ça m'a fait plaisir. Le gars, il s'est arrêté là en voiture. Il m'a dit, j'ai des courses pour vous. Il m'a ramené 2 sacs. Il m'a dit, ça vient de la part de ma femme, ça vient de la part de ma belle-mère.
Pratiquement tous les jours, je fais la revue de presse de 3 à 6 journaux. Tout ce qui est scientifique, tout ce qui est social, justice, violation des droits de l'homme.
À 60 balais, je sens que je peux encore lutter pour remonter la pente. On peut pas trop déprimer sur les mauvaises choses. Il peut encore y avoir des bonnes choses.
Qu'est-ce que vous faites quand vous avez froid?
Je grelotte.
Là, après 4 ans, il y a des matins, je me lève et j'en ai vraiment marre à fond. Et à chaque fois qu'il y a le marathon de Paris qui se court, moi je cours le marathon de Paris. Si encore on pouvait vraiment se mettre quelque part, mais on dérange toujours.
C'est comme s'il considérait que parce que tu es là, tout est fini pour toi. C'est même plus la peine de s'arrêter, c'est même plus la peine d'écouter. C'est la non-réponse au problème qui nous maintient ici, c'est ça le pire. Et une si belle neige, regarde.
ظاهرة ستيدي أثناء عمل بأفضل مساحتي.
السلام عليكم.
Servi.
Nikram roher kerimna Latchis Theatre.
My great-aunt Edith was a wonderful artist. She was one of those post-Victorian girls who grew up in Wheeling, West Virginia, and in 1889 she went to New York City and studied at the Art Students League.
She lived in a time, of course, when it was extremely difficult for women to be recognized as artists.
God, she could paint. She was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm really blown away.
She had a companion named Fanny. I have no doubts that she was gay, but probably Edith didn't want anyone to know about that. In 1925, for reasons unknown, Edith was committed to an asylum. And all of her worldly possessions, her art, her sketchbooks, her charcoals, her paintings were all packed up into trunks, sent back to Wheeling, and Edith was never heard from again. So 40 years later, my mom is visiting the relatives in West Virginia, and she goes up into the attic, and she opens up the trunks, and she sees dozens and dozens of these light-drenched paintings, and she takes them home with her, and I got to grow up surrounded by Edith's work. I moved to New York when I was 20 because, like Edith, I had dreams of becoming an artist. I had to find out more about Edith, so I went to Provincetown searching for clues about her life. No one had ever heard of her, and frankly, no one cared. I'm now in my late 50s, which is the same age that Edith was when she was put away, but I'm still productive, I'm still very much loved, and I have the life that Edith should have had. And so now I'm taking up the Edith cause again to unravel the mystery of her lost life and return her work to Provincetown.
I was a witness to a homicide. On the 22nd of September 2008, the very SWAT team that I founded in the 1970s killed my son-in-law in my presence. I went over it and over it in my head because it didn't make sense the way it went down.
There were officers everywhere. I kept telling them, let me talk to Brian. I know I can calm this situation down. They said, absolutely not. They were in control and they were going to handle the situation.
The police are creating these circumstances. They're creating the volatility. They're creating the violence. They're creating the very thin margin for error.
The premise that the cops are becoming more like the military. It is false.
It's really me as a sheriff preparing a deputy with all the tools that I can give him to go into a situation where there's a high probability somebody will get shot.
Police officers are receiving military weapons and equipment. When you dress them up and you give them that mindset, it's not a surprise that they start acting in a militaristic way.
But when the police make a mistake and shoot someone who isn't really a threat, they're always forgiven because it's the volatility of the situation. People on the receiving end of these raids aren't given that consideration.
Whiskey 7, we're at 3268. Jackson, we got shots fired. We got officer hit. I need medical. I need additional units.
I don't believe that for 1 minute Matthew knew that it was the police that was breaking into his home.
There's no doubt in my mind that he knew exactly what he was doing and who he was firing at.
These guys need to go home at night with their families just like the rest of us do. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
2 people dead over what? What were they protecting us from?
As I began to piece together the puzzle, it became an obsession into trying to find the truth.
Why? Why did this happen? Who's making these decisions?
The objective of our entire profession is to bring peace. Sometimes peace is purchased with violence.
That patch of garbage in the Pacific is growing, and right now it's having a huge impact on the species that call Midway home.
Plastics will play as large a role in peace as they do in war.
Every day, we add estrogen-like chemicals to our body through plastics.
It's like we're all in the midst of a giant, uncontrolled experiment.
Without your permission, you are being polluted. Is that okay with you?
Oh my gosh.
The story has to be told because the solution doesn't lie with the people here.
A lot of people are just in this robot mode, and they're just like, you know, how many times have you bought a drink and a snack, and they put it in a bag? It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh, this is so unnecessary. Why am I using these?
It's just about taking a little shift.
It's our choice. And I don't want to play that game and see, well, how far can it take?
Daniel, darling, I'm sorry we got ourselves into a muddle. Could you get away from work for a couple of days? Leonard has got rather stuck on the sofa and won't move for anything. I'm sorry to ask.
I'm here to get you off the sofa.
He doesn't know how we organize things around here.
Just you and me, Leonard.
What?
It's just you and me. Take the headphones off.
You got something interesting to say?
Just because someone changes, it doesn't mean you stop loving them.
No! Danielle! Danielle!
Nothing's ever simple with you, is it, Leonard?
What could be more simple?
The Vatican reprimanded America's Catholic nuns. The Holy See charged the group with promotion of radical feminist themes
incompatible with the Catholic faith. Criticized the nuns for focusing too heavily on promoting issues of social justice.
The oversight panel really
charged with
leading
an oversight hearing.
For the Vatican to step in and say, you're not doing it right. I mean, I have been a sister longer than most of those guys have been alive.
What do they mean by feminist? The radical notion that women are equal, that women are people like other people are people? If that's a sin, guilty as charged.
They substituted rules for real spiritual leadership. It's not about the rules. The gospel demands us to go where there needs. And when you touch the pain of the world, it releases hope into the darkness.
Sister Jane, so what do we do now?
You have to think in really practical terms. My goal is to try to love people as unconditionally as I can so that they have that experience at least once in their life. A picture of me. You're kidding, right?
Yeah, okay. The sisters say that religious life is changing and evolving. The question is, are you still religious? Are you still nuns? Are you still Christian?
We have to get the truth out there so we can witness to what Jesus really did. Women were in leadership. Yes. It's been hidden.
It's right here.
It's hidden in plain sight.
They call themselves the nuns on the bus, traveling the country, calling attention to the needs of the poor.
The Vatican gave us notoriety.
I have to confess, I'm not used to the banks of cameras.
We just use this attention on us to be a reflector onto what we care about.
They are heretics. They are not Catholic.
If these nuns have a problem with the teachings of the Catholic Church, perhaps they themselves should check out.
No, this is my church.
Oh my God, that's right. Who is it? Francis the First. Awesome.
There is huge political fight in Rome right now between those who want to manage by rules and this Pope who's trying to do a process that's more inclusive, engaging, welcoming.
I am my sister's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Jesus says over and over, go.
During the Great Depression, which I'm old enough to remember, there was, and most of my family were unemployed working class. It was bad, but there was an expectation that things were going to get better. There isn't today.
Noam Chomsky has made 2 international reputations.
The most important intellectual alive, America's leading dissenter.
He is listed in anybody's catalog as among the top heroes of the New Left.
He is among the 8 most quoted thinkers ever.
Inequality is really unprecedented. It's like the worst periods of American history. The effect of the concentration of wealth is to yield concentration of power. Not only is it extremely unjust in itself, inequality has highly negative consequences on the society as a whole. because the very fact of inequality has a corrosive, harmful effect on democracy. This is a result of over 30 years of a shift in social and economic policy, completely against the will of the population. It goes back to the founding of the country. If you read the debates at the Constitutional Convention, James Madison, the main framer, said the major concern of the society has to be to protect the minority of the opulent against the majority. If you look at the history of the United States, it's a constant struggle between these two tendencies. Pressure for more freedom and democracy coming from below, and efforts at elite control and domination coming from above. You opened by talking about the American dream. Part of the American dream is class mobility. You're born poor, you work hard, you get rich. It's all collapsed.
Te amo, vice. Tchau.
Quem você disse que ama?
Minha filha.
Onde ela tá?
Ih, ela tá lá longe.
Val?
Sim.
Pode tirar, por favor.
Tô indo.
Larga essa vassoura e vem.
Jéssica querendo vir pra São Paulo pra ficar comigo.
Mentira! Quanto tempo que vocês não se veem?
Tá mais de 10 anos.
Val?
Tá me levando pra casa dos teus patrões?
Eu moro no serviço, já falei, moro no serviço.
Sua mãe disse que você veio fazer vestibular, é isso?
É.
Tá vendo? O país tá mudando mesmo, né?
Famoso Fabinho.
É, a famosa Jéssica, né?
E aquela porta ali?
Ali é o quarto de hóspede.
Ah, é onde eu vou ficar, então.
Você tá doido, perder o juízo?
Você quer ficar aqui?
Pelo amor de Deus, pelo amor de Deus, pelo amor de Deus. Ô, Jéssica, quem é que botou a mesa do café?
Foi Bárbara.
Não é Bárbara, não é Dona Bárbara. E tu não pode sentar na mesa dele, não, rapaz. Não vá olhando pra essa piscina, não, Jéssica.
Tem algum docinho, Val?
Não tem um docinho? Já perguntou.
Lana, não pode isso, não pode aquilo. Tava escrito em livro.
Isso aí ninguém precisa explicar, não. A pessoa já nasce sabendo o que pode e o que não pode.
Você é virgem?
Tu ainda vai conseguir fazer eu perder esse emprego. Faça que está podando, que eu faço que estou aguando. E vai espiando.
Vai!
Jéssica, sai daí, ligeira! Saia daí!
Tô indo!
Dá pra obedecer a sua mãe que ela tá falando com você?
Me respeita que eu sou sua mãe.
Ah, não, minha mãe não é nada. Tô te falando que eu quero sair daqui, entendeu? Você tinha que ter me defendido.
Poxa, Fabinho, a Val pode te abraçar e eu não posso.
A Val me acha inteligente, você me acha burro.
Tu vai entender direitinho tua mãe. Tô dentro da piscina.
Remember when the state of Vermont changed the world as we knew it forever.
In the 1980s and even into the 1990s, gay people were under siege. It's difficult for people today to appreciate how recently things were horrible.
In early 1994, I pulled together lawyers from around the 6 New England states.
One of the questions I asked was, what do you think about taking on the idea of working toward marriage for gay couples?
There were people at the table who thought this was a folly, even reckless. Beth and Susan clearly said there is a path forward in Vermont. It was really our turn to take it from there.
3 homosexual couples filed a lawsuit today challenging a Vermont state law that prohibits same-sex marriages.
Vermont was the stepping stone to all the other states. If we could stop it in Vermont, we could stop it in the other states.
It's easy to sit here in 1998 and say, of course the ban on interracial marriage was unconstitutional. But at the time, the notion of a black person and a white person marrying was as antithetical to many people's conceptions of what a marriage was as the notion of a man marrying a man or a woman marrying a woman appears to be to the state of Vermont today.
The decision is being called the first of its kind in the nation.
Gay couples in Vermont will soon get the same rights and benefits as married heterosexual couples.
It wasn't until after the law passed that things got really ugly in Vermont.
People who had been scared to express their homophobia and their hatred of gay people suddenly felt like they had permission to do so.
Don't tell me to watch my mouth while you're over here teaching these children that it's okay to be gay.
The battle is by no means over. We had to keep working, however long it took, to get to civil marriage for same-sex couples.
Vermont established the principle that we could win something bigger than most people had ever dreamed we were going to achieve.
It really changed the course of American history.
This was not a gay agenda. This was a human agenda.
We need to understand people's heads will follow if you get their hearts.
دزگیره آقا؟
یه جورایی دزگیرم هست.
ظاهرش معلومه خیلی چیز خفن و کار درستی باشه.
فیلم برداریه دیگه آقا پناهی. شما کجا؟ تاکسی کجا آقا پناهی؟
تو چرا سوار این شدی اومدی دنبالم؟ اونم دنبال من همه بچه‌ها هست افتادن دارم کارگردان وقت تو با این میای دنبالم. حداقل فکر آوری خودسی و فکر آوری من باش.
اگه تندتر بری حتما میرسیم. ایشالله میرسیم. وای تو رو خدا. تو رو خدا آقا. تو رو خدا زود باشید داری میمیره.
دست من نکه آغاز بخوام وصیت کنم. بهش حفظ نمیرسه. قطعا تا مخلمونه بهش میدم.
زنده مونه. بیشتر ترسیده بود.
خودم دیدم حالش خیلی بد بود.
هر آدمی که مجرم به دنیا نمیاد آقا از اول.
من نمیفهمم اصلا شما چی میگید. من میگم اگه 2 نفر رو اعدام بکنن گوشی بقیه دستشون میاد.
من شما چی میگید ولی اشتباه دارین میگین آقا.
اینجا رو واسه آدم زندون میکنن. نزدیکترین دوستاتو بدترین دشمنات میکنن. به نظرم بیخیالش شو. مرسی.
این هم راه رو بلده هم زودتر میره. بفرمایید.
About 200 miles east of San Francisco lies one of the great scenic wonders of the world, Yosemite National Park.
I mean, we were living on the fringes of society.
A hardcore, a really devoted climbers trying to raise the standards
push themselves.
We got a purpose. Only through climbing can you find yourself. Bullshit like that.
Climbing in those days was not a respectable activity to be doing. It was an outlaw activity.
The idea of devoting your life to climbing didn't exist anywhere else. We were going to climb forever, and that was the extent of it.
No one has ventured onto walls like this.
So huge, you'd be on it the rest of your life.
Why in God's green earth do you guys climb mountains?
Because we're insane.
In Yosemite Valley, climbing went from a fringe activity to a full-blown culture and sport.
The next generation had a ride. It was us.
Get out of the way. Here we are.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll, climbing.
Fingers of steel, zero body fat, lots of testosterone.
If you fall, you hit the ground and you die.
All these years later, that fire is still burning in the heart of the valley.
Pushing the limits and pissing off the status quo.
The Rangers just hated the climbers.
And so we became the outlaws.
No way will they stop the dirt bags.
Turn off the camera.
No, thank you.
They're doing what they got to do to keep climbing, keep storming the castle.
It's a fine line between boldness and stupidity.
Life's pretty good here in Yosemite Valley, baby! Woo, yeah!
The New Yorker isn't the bedrock, it's the Everest. The cartoons had partly made the New Yorker what it was. Who are you as a cartoonist? Are you observational? Scales say alien overlord, but the rolled up sleeves say man of the people. Are you absurdist? What's your true sort of nature?
I, like most cartoonists, have my head wired weirdly.
One time I asked my son, who wasn't quite 3, I asked him what he thought I did for a living. And he said, "You go on the train and you show your drawings to the men." And I thought, well, that kind of sums it up.
Sometimes I come up with a god-awful stuff.
Why is it a bunny?
And sometimes I come up with something that close.
Doing a cartoon is like sticking a note in a bottle and throwing it into the ocean. It may reach somebody, but you'll never know.
These are the actual scrapbooks where all the cartoons are. So this is this whole history, all these generations. You know, come the apocalypse, this is still
Stuttering was something I never talked about. Every time I opened my mouth, I felt like there was something wrong with me. And no matter how hard I tried in speech therapy, I couldn't fix it. There came a point where I could see how much it was affecting my life. Things I didn't say or didn't do because I stuttered. And I realized that I didn't know anything about it. What is stuttering? Where does it come from? Is it passed down through families, like it is in mine? I want to start looking at the role it's played in my life. I've started seeking out other people who stutter and listening to their stories. And somewhere along the way, I found mine.
And who might you be?
If you please, I am Dorothy. Feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
I'm not afraid of her. I'll see you reach the wizard.
The wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The greatest family film of all time returns in a whole new way in 3 days.
Won't you take me with you?
Why, of course I will.
Hooray! Because of the wonderful things he does.
Tiger's best. My little party's just beginning. Bring me that girl and her dog.
Outside! I'm trying to get home to you, Annie. We've come such a long way. The wizard will fix everything.
We want to see the wizard.
Bust my button!
Put 'em up, put 'em up.
There's no place like home.